When you insert a key into a padlock, the grooves on the key push back little metal cylinders called key pins. Behind the key pins, driver pins attached to springs exert a force onto the key pins. When there's no key inserted, the key pins extend into the plug where a stopper holds them in line. The pins in this position prevent the plug from rotating. If you have the right key, the key pins will align with the driver pins, forming a shear line. Now, when you turn the key, the plug turns since it's no longer obstructed by the key pins. On top of the plug, spring-loaded latches extend into notches in the shackle, holding it in place. A protruding bit at the top of the plug, called a cam, pushes against the latch, and the latch releases the shackle, producing the familiar click sound. The shackle is pushed out by the spring at its base. To keep the shackle from coming off, a locking powel engages a notch on the longer side of the shackle. The notch goes all the way around, allowing the shackle to turn freely. This pin mechanism dates back to 2000 BC, where ancient Egyptians made locks with wooden pins. This type of lock is called a pin-tumbler lock and is the most commonly used. However, it's not the safest, as it is more prone to lock picking than disc detainer locks. To pick a lock, you only need two tools, a tension wrench, and a pick. These are just bent metal pieces that you can buy or improvise. Insert the tension wrench on the wider side of the keyhole and apply a constant turning force with one hand. With the other hand, insert the pick and use it to feel the pins. When you feel resistance on a pin, it means the driver pin in that channel is binding. Binding means that the pin is wedged in the shear line between the plug and the housing. But why does one pin bind at a time? This is because the manufacturing process of the pins and the plug are not perfect, resulting in different shapes and sizes. Each pin fits slightly differently in the channels. The binding pin is the tightest fitting and is hard to lift with the pick. Pins that are springy are not binding and are not ready to pick yet. Once you identify the binding pin, push the key pin with the pick until you hear or feel a click. The click means that the driver pin has been pushed outside the plug and now sits beyond the shear line. This pin is said to be set. The key pin will also be loosely moving in the plug because there's no force from the spring anymore. Once one pin is set, another pin becomes binding. Here, pin 4 is springy, so it's not ready to be picked. Pin 5 is binding, and you'll push it with the pick to set it. Now we go back to pin 4. It is now binding, so we pick it. Let's go back to pin 1. The order you use to pick the pins is entirely upon you. Pin 1 is now binding, and we do the same. All that's left is pin 2. When we pick pin 2, all the pins are now beyond the shear line, and the plug is free to turn from the force of the tension wrench.